بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. Today it is Tuesday, the 21st of June 2022. And in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 326. And we're looking at the words of chapter 2, Al-Baqarah, verse 102. And this is our seventh broadcast in that series. Just to remind you that these broadcasts are brought to you by Laser, Lahore MDS School for Education in Religion. And it is a department of the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement, or Ahmadiyya Anjuman Ishayat Islam. The Ahmadiyya organization was founded by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, rahmatullah alayh, and he taught that although people say that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, prophets can still come, this is incorrect, because the Holy Quran says that the Holy Prophet Muhammad was the Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet explained this term by saying, La Nabiyya Ba'di, there is no prophet after me. So now, no prophet shall come, whether it's an old prophet or a new prophet or whatever. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib rahmatullah alayhi said that in accordance with Hadith, he was a mujaddid, many of whom had come previously. But his distinction was that the people the Holy Prophet Muhammad prophesied in Hadith with the names Messiah and Mahdi, he said that the signs for their appearance were fulfilled in his advent. But he was still a mujaddid. And he stressed, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib rahmatullah alayh stressed that non-Ahmadi Muslims are too quick to start calling each other kafirs and heretics and what have you. But the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima, you are a kafir, you are a heretic, then it is the person saying so who becomes the heretic. So he said we mustn't call each other kafirs and heretics because of differences of opinion on certain things. And he further said that other people say that some prophetic revelation has been missed from the Holy Quran. And others say that although some verses are there in the Quran, but the command has been abrogated. But he said this cannot be true because God says in the Holy Quran that I have revealed it. God says, I have revealed it. And I will guard it. So when God has taken the responsibility of guarding the Holy Quran, then how can it be that some prophetic revelation is missing from it and some revelation which is within the Holy Quran is abrogated? Rasul further said that jihad is a fundamental duty of every Muslim, but that definition of jihad, which was given to us by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, when returning from fighting, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that Muslims were returning from the minor jihad to the major jihad. And then went on to explain that major jihad is jihad bin nafs. And that is jihad with your own soul, with your own self. Certainly, if you're attacked by the sword, then you defend yourself with the sword. But otherwise, your jihad is to try and control your ego, your arrogance, your hatred for people. And so on. The list is a long one. So with that, let us turn to the Holy Quran. As I said, we are at chapter 2, verse 102. So let's go to that. As I said previously, I will only recite the part of the verse which we are going to look at. Wamaa unzila. Sorry. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت. And it was not revealed to the two angels in Babylon, called Harut and Marut. So God is saying this is divine revelation and not made by someone else. Okay, let me find my notes which are on the computer. So we have wamaa, which is an expression that consists of two parts, wa, which means and, ma, and what. Okay, so there's not much more to say on that. And then the next word, unzila, its triliteral root is noon, zay, lam. And using these three characters, 12 words have been made and used in the Holy Quran. And the total number of times this root or words based on this root are used in the Holy Quran is 293. For example, 183 times it says anzala. And 62 times it says nazzala. And 15 times it says tanzeel. And 8 times it says nuzul. And what else is there? 7 times it says tanazzalat. And 6 times it says nazala. And then others once or twice. And 5 times it says munzilin, etc. So, and it means to descend, to come down from a higher to a lower place. So, it is used, for example, when someone gets off their conveyance. That it's the antonym of it's used with uruj. Uruj means go up, and nazala means, or nazul means to come down. And it means, it applies to things that you use to entertain a guest, food. It means God's blessings. It means what God grants. It's used for the land, which is very fertile, and it is used for rain, etc. So it's like in Urdu they say, for example, aap kahan utre? Literally, where have you descended? But it means, where are you staying? But there are two words. One is unzila and one is tanzeel. Tanzeel means to come down slowly. But in Zalan, it means that whatever it is can come down in one go. So the Holy Quran says, Nazala minas sama'i ma'a. And that is because when you have clouds, all the water in the clouds doesn't just fall out. It comes down slowly. And as I said, sometimes the Holy Quran uses this word, like وَأَنزَلْنَا الْحَدِيدَ. Sorry, my tongue was stuck in the wrong place. Chapter 57, verse 25. And we made oil descend, literally. But of course, it doesn't mean that and God actually makes it descend. It means God granted this. And in chapter 15, Holy Quran also says that God has treasures upon treasures, uncountable, immeasurable treasures. But he doesn't just throw the whole lot at humanity all in one go, but he allows humanity to find them according to a measure, qadr. In Urdu and so on, whenever we hear the word qadr, we think, oh, fate. but it means according to a measure, an accurate measure. So when God says that things are that you can't see, I grant you these things according to a measure, it means that God has put in the human beings the ability to discover things if they do research and if they work hard. And that's very, very important. Because God doesn't say that because you follow religion A or religion B, or you're in sect C or sect D, you're going to get bounties in this world. You have to work for them. You have to do research. You have to try and find them. Take the example of oil. They found a little bit of it in Texas, in America, and then in Saudi Arabia, and then in other places, gradually, Gulf states and Iran and so on. Now you are finding it in other places. But it takes a long time. They take samples of soil and they test them, and then they dig test wells. They dig further down, and they take that soil and do tests and so on. And eventually, after a lot of effort and research and so on, human beings get to oil. Yeah, the same similar things apply to other things like gold and diamonds and gold and whatever else you have. If you think that, we can just sit on our backsides, not work hard, not do research, and because we are Muslims or we are Lahori MDs, God is just going to say, oh, these people are wonderful. Their beliefs are right. So let me just bestow upon them this, whatever it is, and give them all the blessings in this world. It doesn't work like that. And there is another interesting thing we must remember. That God says that, I sent the Quran down, Tanzeel. And this was an objection that the Quraysh raised against the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that, let us see you go up to heavens and bring down the Quran. And the other objection was, well, because you can't do that, we know that you just made up these things. And we have verses in the Holy Quran. They say that these are stories of old people that he's got written down, and he says, God has told me these things, and so on. So the point about sending the Quran is to refute this argument that these are the ideas, etc., of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And some people say that these were his own ideas and maybe relevant for the time, but not so relevant now, and so on. And someone would ask him a question, he'd think about it, he would come up with a solution or guidance, and he would say, but this is God's revelation. The beauty of using the word tanzeel, sent down, is to show that these are not the Holy Prophet's personal thoughts and ideas, but it is something that is external, an external phenomenon. And because it's an external phenomenon and not an internal one, there's nothing you can do to receive revelation. Because the person sending the revelation, it's up to him who he sends it to. I can't, take the example of, any sport. Tennis players, they do a lot of practice. They study their opponents, and then, they study their own videos and see the mistakes they made, and they learn from them, and then they practice. Oh, my forehand is weak. I must practice to improve it. And they go and they, for hours, they just play the forehand, etc., until it's perfect. But you can't do that with God's revelation, with Wahi. And the reason is that it's external. Nothing to, But then, having said that, every person in his nature has the ability to speak to God and get his revelation. Now, how much revelation he gets, it depends on how close he is to Allah. And you become close to Allah by following in the Sunnah, in the footsteps of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Just take the example of two friends. One person, he is very close to one friend. Why? Because, he does what the other one says, and the other one listens to him and does him favors, etc. And this person has got another friend. He's friend, but he's not so close. Then he's got a third one who's more or less like a stranger. Now, the closer the friend, the more communication they have. So it's the same with God. The closer you are to God, the more communication you get from him. So the question then is, how do you get to be close to God? You get to be close to God by following the Sunnah and the footsteps of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and then you become what Sufis call Fanafir Rasul. Your own personality is completely absorbed, effaced in the personality of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. You don't exist anymore. Your personality doesn't exist anymore. And then, because you're emulating the Holy Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then God would speak to you. You see, this is important, that you can discover things through your own efforts and research. But there are some things that you cannot discover. So God sends revelation for you to discover those things. Now, the revelation sent to a prophet is like a command from God. But revelation sent to a saint, a Sufi, that is not a command. That is a correction, a further explanation of something that people might have understood. So the prophet, the Nabi, receives wahi in Nabuwah, prophetic revelation. Prophetic revelation says fast. So you fast, because that's a command. Another example, think of this. that the Queen of England has a weekly audience with the Prime Minister, which is an official occasion where the Queen receives the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister gives her a briefing on various things. Now, once the Prime Minister says, we are going to legislate to do this, like the Queen says in Queen's speech, my government is going to do this. Once the Parliament has passed a law, it's still not the law. But once the Queen signs it, it's an official command. It has now become the law. You will pay this much income tax. You will do this. You will not do that. Whatever it might be. But then it may be that the Prime Minister chats to the Queen, and it's not an official meeting. It's not an official audience. And the Prime Minister says, we are in a bad way. We haven't got a lot of money. And Her Majesty says, well, okay, have you thought of raising taxes? How about that? Now, this is not a command from the Queen to raise taxes. This is just two friends talking to each other, and one saying to the other, I've got this problem, and the other one saying, oh, okay, how about doing this? And it's the same thing. When a prophet receives wahi and nabuwat, that is divine command. You shall do this, you shall not do that. Even prophets receive non-prophet revelation, which is not God's command to do this, do that. And non-prophets, those who are close to it, as I said, everyone receives. Sometimes we sleep and we see a dream, or we might be half awake and we see a vision about something. And then it comes true. And obviously it was from God. But they are not divine commands. If someone receives a revelation and in it he or she is told, you must give more charity, that is not a command that everyone must give the amount of charity that person is going to give. Because the command is in the Holy Quran. That comes through prophetic revelation. What is not prophetic revelation, even if it's something is in there, that is personal to that person. It's wahi walai, revelation of the Sufis or the saints, etc. And that's very, very important, because it's misunderstanding of this in particular that has caused Muslims to sort of go astray quite a lot. So another example is, great scholars say that Jesus is up in heavens and he'll come again. Equally great scholars say that now Jesus died. And he's not going to come again. So who do I believe? And this was the point about Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi saying that Jesus has died. He said that God says Jesus has died. Because God revealed to me that Jesus has died and he won't come again. And then I looked in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, I found 30 verses from which you can argue that Jesus has died. And that is the difference. Lots of people say, well, Jesus is dead because, no one can sit up in heavens without eating or drinking for 2,000 odd years. It's impossible. But Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's point was that everything is possible for God. But God has said that Jesus wasn't bodily taken up to heaven, but he lived and died on this earth. And that is the point. We've come to the end of our time. So I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.